Who is the most badass ranger in the history of Super Sentai?
Ninja!
Throughout the 50-year history of Super Sentai, we've been introduced to some characters who are tough as nails and you wouldn't want to mess with. But today, we're going to find out who is the toughest as we count down the top 10 most badass rangers of all time. I rank these based on toughness, fighting skills, and coolness. But of course, let me know who you think is the most badass ranger of all time in the comments. And let's get into it. Number 10 is Ninja White, Tsuruhime, and she was the first female leader of Sentai, and also the youngest at only 15 years old. She was the most mature member of the team, despite her age, and was also exceptionally skilled at martial arts. In fact, she was part of a crime-fighting team with her two childhood friends, named the Punishment Sailor Sisters, prior to being a Kaku Ranger. As Ninja White, she has a really cool suit that I know can be a little bit divisive in the community, but I think it's pretty sleek and I think it represents a ninja really well. She also has her sword and her shuriken, and her fighting skills along with her equipment make her extremely formidable in a fight, and she's definitely not one to underestimate on the battlefield. And I definitely think she qualifies as one of the most badass rangers of all time. Number 9 is Ryu Ranger from Dai Ranger, and his name is Ryo, who had a warrior spirit and was absolutely fearless. He was very skilled at martial arts and used with many different weapons. In general, Dai Ranger is really good at showcasing different types of martial arts and different weapons. And with his explosive demeanor, he makes for a very strong leader, and he has the unwavering loyalty of his teammates. I think his suit, and particularly his helmet, look freaking awesome, so he definitely gets extra coolness points, and Ryo could definitely kick some ass even while he was unhinged. Due to his mother's death, he was forced to raise his sister, Yoko, by himself, and he is extremely focused and disciplined. Next up is Deca Red, and I would say that Bond borderlines on clinical insanity during a lot of the series. He's insanely high-strung, short-tempered, and somewhat unpredictable at times, but he actually has a strong tactical mind and skills when it comes to combat. Add to that a robust arsenal full of high-tech weaponry, and it's easy to see why he would be a formidable adversary to his enemies. Over time, he develops into a more well-rounded character with strong leadership qualities, and he becomes an even stronger ranger. I really like how Bond develops and how his story plays out over the course of the series and subsequent films. Like I said, in the beginning, he was an absolute hothead. He would get pissed off at everything and lose his mind, but he became a lot more focused and disciplined, and eventually was promoted to the captain of Fire Squad. Definitely one of my favorite Red Rangers. Next up is Gokai Yellow, Luca Milfi. Luca is a loudmouth with no manners and no fear at all. She acts like a young punk with a chip on her shoulder and is one of the more aggressive members of the team. She's also very skilled in combat and is comfortable at either range or in close quarters. She is one of the most popular rangers of all time. Gokaiger is a season that's dripping with style and character, and she's no exception. She can melt your heart with her charm and likability just as easily as she can kick your ass and take your loot. I think that a lot of the appeal with Luca is that she sort of has a rogue, almost anti-hero kind of vibe, which is pretty unique for a female ranger on a Sentai. And then add to that all of the charisma of Mao Ichimichi, and you have a character that just ticks all the boxes as far as likability, intrigue, and coolness. I've put her at number 1 on several lists, including Best Female Ranger, and she definitely deserves a place on this list. Next up is Time Pink, Yuri, and she was the leader of the Time Rangers who had a tragic past involving Don Donero having her family killed. She had an extremely focused demeanor due to her desire to bring Don Donero to justice. She's driven by a sense of duty and justice, and she has all of the skills and technology needed to accomplish her goals. This girl is tough as nails. She has no fear in the face of danger, and she's extremely driven to accomplish her goals. And I think that she more than deserves a place on this list. Number 5 is Black Condor from Jetman. As one of my viewers said before, Guy is the ultimate Chad of Sentai, a lone wolf that dislikes taking orders and plays by his own rules, and that goes for the team and for life in general. And I've always kind of felt like Guy's personality would work great as a Kamen Rider, because he would much rather do his own thing than fight with a team.
Full house.
I'm a big fan of the suits in Jetman, so I have to say that his suit looks pretty cool here. You know, the wings under the arms are a really nice touch. Guy was played masterfully by Toshi Wakamatsu, and throughout his performance, you really get the sense that Guy might just fly off the handle at any time. He has his own motivations, and a lot of the time, he doesn't even share those motivations with the audience, so he does things that will make you scratch your head and catch you by surprise. But that's just how Guy is, and it's one of the reasons why he's so loved as a character. Number 4 is Shinken Red, Takeru. Takeru is an absolute badass. As the leader of Shinkenger, he is focused, disciplined, and driven to represent the Shiba clan with honor. He's trained his entire life in the ways of the samurai, and lives solely to be a warrior. He has no hobbies, he has no interests, except for being a samurai. He is very skilled in combat due to his years of training, and is one of the most formidable warriors in the history of Sentai. This is not a dude that you want to come up against on the battlefield, especially if he's wielding the Rekka Daizanto, a weapon that is capable of massive amounts of destruction. I think the suits in Shinkenger look amazing, and with that ghetto Shinken Red look, he looks absolutely sick. Next up is Dragon Ranger, Burai, from Zyuranger. Burai's story is awesome. You know, a lot of people on this channel in the comments talk mad trash about Zyuranger for some mostly justifiable reasons, but I think the bright spot of Zyuranger is Burai. Like, if there's one reason to watch that show, it's for him and his story arc. But his suit looks freaking awesome. I love green and I love gold, so of course I'm a big fan of this look. And because of Power Rangers, this is probably one of the most iconic suit designs in the entire world. Like, I would say he looks good by today's standards, but back in the early 90s, when this show came out, something like this had never been seen before. Like, imagine how sick they thought that this suit looked in the early 90s. Their minds had to be blown, dude. But not only does he look cool, he also has one hell of an awesome arsenal with equipment like the Devil Sword Helfried and the Josoken, his dagger. He also has Dragon Caesar, which as far as I can tell, is a ripoff of Mechagodzilla, but I don't mind it. He still looks awesome. Next up at number 2 is Abare Kira from Abaranger. Mikoto was a surgeon who was good at everything he ever tried to do and became bored with life. Because of this, he henshins and fights simply for an entertaining challenge. He is one of the strongest 6th Rangers of all time, and obviously looks cool as hell. In my opinion, this is easily the most aggressive looking suit design in Sentai history. The black and white with a little bit of red is almost perfect. This dude with this suit fits his name perfectly, and he looks like he would just rip your head off for fun. I love the shape of the visor, it really looks like there's a mouth that's gonna freaking bite you. I love the subtle gold piping on his shield, gloves, and boots, as well as his gold belt. And his chest and shoulder armor reminds me a lot of Burai's, just because of the general shape of it, so I can appreciate that. Mikoto would eventually be redeemed, but his aggressive looking suit remained, and he would still give off vibes like he was gonna rip you in two. But you know guys, not everybody can make this list, so here's some honorable mentions for you.
Papillon Oja!
Papillon Oja. Rita is the king of Gokan, and she has a cool and unique style, being focused and themed around justice. She's also quite skilled in combat, and I like purple, so that's why she's here. Another honorable mention is Boken Black. He is aggressive and rude. Someone once told me in the comments that Masumi was meant to be a throwback to Guy from Jetman, and I can definitely see it. They have very similar personalities, and Masumi seems to get into conflict with nearly everyone from time to time. He is a decently skilled fighter, but I put him here mostly because of his personality. And the number one most badass ranger in the history of Super Sentai is Joe, Gokai Blue. Joe was once a member of the Zongyak's Imperial Special Forces and had to undergo intense levels of training and abuse designed to make him stronger. He heroically refused an order to attack a group of children and was outfitted with an electric shock collar that could track him as punishment for his insubordination. He eventually escaped and had a bounty placed on his head before meeting and joining Captain Marvelous, who removed the collar. He is tough as nails and extremely well trained in combat. Joe is not someone to take lightly. His skills in melee combat as well as marksmanship are elite, and he also has combat experience that gives him an edge against his enemies. He is easily the most beastly Blue Ranger of all time and the biggest badass in the history of Sentai. But you know what? That's just what I think. Let me know who you think is the most badass ranger in the history of Sentai in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, it would mean tons to me if you would smack the out of that like button. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.